Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to go over the rules for previous H4 candle being in the same direction and when's the best time to consider trading in the same direction as the previous candle. Okay, so these are the 4 candles that we're going to be focused on: non-MSB engulf, inside bar, single candle, and liquidity wick, which of course you're already familiar with from the previous lesson. These are the only rules that you're going to follow when looking for a trade based on following the previous candle's direction. Okay, so 3 major rules: 1, that the H4 candle is trapped inside H4 structures wicks; 2, that it's not closing or tapping into a H4 new high or new low level; and 3, that it's closing inside the previous day's range. Okay, so let's illustrate this with these examples here. So we'll start with non-MSB engulf. So we have this bearish non-MSB engulf. Rule number 1, trapped inside H4 structures wicks. What does that mean? So if this is a bearish non-MSB engulf, obviously we're going to be looking for sells because this is the same direction portion of the course, right? So when is the right time to look for sells when you get a non-MSB engulf? Rule number 1, it has to be trapped inside structure on the H4. So we can see there's structure to the left here, bull and the bear, and your non-MSB engulf is trapped within the structure. But what is the actual definition of being trapped? The definition of it being trapped is that it cannot close, your structure cannot close above these wicks here. So this is your structure, the bull and the bear, and these are your structural wicks. So I've put a line here to illustrate that if this bullish candle was closed up here, and then even if your non-MSB engulf closed back inside, it doesn't matter because this bullish candle is now closed above the structural wick to the left, so we're no longer trapped inside of it. Okay, but in this case here, we are trapped. As long as this bullish candle closes beneath this wick, even if it closed all the way up here, just beneath this wick, it's still trapped within this structure and the wick of the structure. Okay, so that's the first thing with trapped price in H4 structure to the left. Rule number 2, not closing or tapping into H4 new high or new low level. So we can see here that our bearish candle is pushing into this structure here. Okay, but how does this structure look? Has it made a new high? So did it go up and close above this structure? No, it didn't. Okay, we can see that this structure, after the structure was formed, it failed, price failed to close above the previous structure high here. So this level here, this structure low, is not a new high level. Okay, whereas if you look here, right, so we have a non-MSB engulf here, right, it's coming off, it's trapped inside structure to the left, right, it's trapped inside, which is good, but your non-MSB engulf is tapping into this new high level. So if you remember from the previous lesson what a new high is, it's essentially supply and demand levels. But even if your level is formed of an inside bar, right, obviously you wouldn't normally buy from a new high or new low level where the structure is formed from an inside bar. But in the case of this rule, it doesn't matter whether this is an inside bar or an engulf. The matter of fact is, it is a new high level. Okay, you do not want to sell into this level. Okay, so as you can see, this candle would be your candle that you're looking to take sells from. It's trapped inside structure to the left, which is good, but it is tapping into this new high level. So this is price went up, down, creating a structure high, then this leg took out that high. Essentially the same thing as this. Okay, so you never want to sell into levels like that, ever. Okay, so if we go back to the first example over here, this is perfect. We have price trapped in structure, price pushing into a level that did not make a new high. So there's only one way for price to go in the next candle or two, and that is bearish. Okay, let's look at another example of non-MSB engulf. So we've got a bearish non-MSB engulf here. It is trapped within this structure wick. So this is an example that I drew on purpose. So you can see this bullish candle before your non-MSB engulf closed above the structure, but it doesn't matter because it didn't close above the structure wicks. So as a whole, this is still an area that is trapping your non-MSB engulf. So that's beautiful. And then your non-MSB engulf didn't tap into any structure at all. It's actually just closing into bullish empty space, which is even more perfect because we know what happens when there's bullish or bearish empty space. And if you're coming off some structure as well, then you know that price is highly likely going to fill the entire empty space, right? So beautiful, okay? So the same thing, I've illustrated the exact same thing with inside bars. Same thing, so we have this bearish inside bar here. It's trapped within H4 structure wick to the left. It's tapping into this structure here. So this bearish candle is tapping into the structure here, but it doesn't matter because this leg didn't take out this previous structure high here, okay? So when it comes to the new high, new low levels, it's all to do with the structure, which is bull and bears, bears and bulls. It's nothing to do with the wicks. So, for example, as soon as this new high level closed above this structure high, then of course this bearish candle is no longer valid, okay? So here again we have a bearish inside bar trapped inside structure wicks to the left. Doesn't matter if this bullish candle closed above the exact structure, which is the bull and bear. It's trapped inside the structural wicks of the bull and bear, so that's perfect. And then of course our bearish inside bar here is not tapping into any structure at all. It's just in empty space, which is good. So that's why I've illustrated one that's tapping into structure to show you that you can trade into structure just as long as the structure didn't make a new high, okay? And the opposite would obviously be true if you're looking for buys. I've just used bearish examples, then it's the opposite that would be true if you're looking for buys, okay? And then over here we have this bearish inside bar, okay? It's pushing into a level. So this bearish inside bar is pushing into a level, a structure. This structure didn't make a new high, so that's good, all right? But we need price to be trapped inside H4 structures wicks to the left. But we don't have any structure to the left. All we have is bearish empty space. So your bearish inside bar here is essentially in bearish empty space. So what could happen is in the next candle, price could actually just continue bullish and fill this empty space because there's no structure here that's trapping this price inside of it with nowhere else to go but down, okay? So those are the rules for non-MSB engulf and inside bar, okay? They're exactly the same, the rules for both of them. So take time to really study this. It may not make sense straight away, even though I've just explained it, but take time to really understand it. Now let's look at single candle and liquidity wicks. So for single candle and liquidity wicks, we have these two rules here. One, it happens directly after a valid H4 inside bar or non-MSB engulf, as mentioned above, and is tapping the structure of the non-MSB engulf or inside bar, or it doesn't happen directly after H4 inside bar or non-MSB engulf, but it still taps into the most recent H4 inside bar or non-MSB engulfs structure zone. So what does that mean? So let's look at this single candle here, okay? So this is a bearish single candle, right? It is directly after this non-MSB engulf, and the non-MSB engulf has to tie into all these rules, okay? So essentially, your single candle has to tap into a non-MSB engulf or inside bar that is valid, okay? So this tapped into this zone, this non-MSB engulf zone, structure, area, and the non-MSB engulf is valid because it's coming off this and it's not tapping into any level that's a new high, okay? So you can take sells after this single candle, okay? And then for liquidity wick, it's the same thing. Either has to happen directly after a non-MSB engulf or inside bar, like in the next candle, or it can happen after that. So this one's happened 2 candles later, but the wick has to tap into the area, into the structure of a valid non-MSB or non-MSB engulf or inside bar, right? So let's actually just draw the zone, how it would look. When I say it has to tap structure, how does that look? It would be the same thing as when you normally mark your zones. So that would be the zone of your structure that needs to be tapped by your single candle. So you can see this bearish single candle is tapping into the zone. so that's fine. So once this is closed, you would be looking for sells after. Same with this candle. Once it's closed, you'll be looking for sells after. Okay, and also rules number I meant to put rules number 2 and 3 also apply to the single candle as well. So your single candle also cannot close or tap into a H4 new high or new low level against you. Okay, so you wouldn't want this to be tapping into a H4 level on the left here that made a new high. Okay, you wouldn't want it to be tapping into that structure area. Otherwise, price is likely to just continue up and take out this candle. Okay, same kind of concept with all the other candles that I've just explained. This here is tapping into this new high level, so price will probably just retrace, maybe have a small sell-off and then continue bullish. Okay, I think that about wraps it up. And same thing, it has to close your single candle or liquidity wick also must close within the previous day's range. Okay, so obviously I'm going to go on the charts now and give some examples that you can look at, but I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, watch it again. Watch it as many times as you have to for it to make sense to you. This is the core rules of being able to know when to trade in the same direction as a previous H4 candle. I only want you to focus on these closures: non-MSB engulf, inside bar, single candle and liquidity wick. These are the most powerful and most simple when it comes to predicting which way price is going to go. Now let's go look at some examples on the charts. Okay, so let's look at some examples on the charts. We'll run through them and we'll do it quite quickly because I think it will make a lot of sense to you now that you've seen the diagrams. So we'll start with inside bars. So here we have a bearish inside bar. So first thing we look at is it trapped inside H4 structure to the left, structure wicks? Yes, it is. Let me zoom in a bit more. So there's our bearish inside bar. The bullish candle did not close above this wick of this H4 structure, so we're trapped inside this structure. Okay, perfect. Then we look to see if our bearish inside bar is tapping into a H4 level that made a new high, and it isn't. This is the H4 level here. So when it's an inside bar, when your structure is formed of an inside bar, you mark from the close of the inside bar to the low, but obviously the point that really matters is the close of the inside bar. And obviously when it's an engulf, when your structure is formed of an engulf, as you already know, you mark from the open of the engulfed candle to the bottom. So if this was your new high level that you didn't want price to be tapping, then price can't tap this top area here. Okay, so both of those things are met, right? Rule number 1 and number 2 that we covered just now, and this H4 candle is closing within the previous day's range. So this is the previous day's high, which happens to be the H4 structure high as well, the structure wick. That's the high there. Your H4 candle is closed below it, so we're closing within the previous day's range. It's the previous day here. We are closing beneath that. Okay, and as you can see, the next candle closed bearish, candle after that closed bearish, and it just continues to go bearish. Okay, here's a bullish example. So we have a bullish inside bar. So we look to the left to see if we have some structure. We have some structure here. Then we look to the structure wicks. The lowest wick out of this bear and this bull is this wick here. Clearly you can see that our bearish candle before our inside bar did not close below the structure wick here, so we are trapped inside this structure. Then we look to see, is this candle pushing into a H4 new low level? So now we're looking at a bullish version. Before we was looking at a bearish version. Are we tapping into a new low level? Nope. This bullish inside bar is closing within this bearish empty space, so there's no structure that made a new low that our candle is tapping into. We actually have a big bearish empty space which got filled over the next couple H4 candles. Okay, let's look at a non-MSB engulf. So here we have a bullish non-MSB engulf here. Okay, bullish non-MSB engulf. We can see that we're trapped within this structure to the left, so that's our bear and bull. This bearish candle obviously nowhere near closing below this structure wick here. We're tapping into the level. So remember what I said, if it's an inside, formed of an inside bar, we'll draw it like this. So we are trapped within that. Okay, and we also want to be trapped within the H1 structure as well. So if I come to the H1 and I narrow this down to H1 structure, this would be like the lowest H1 structure, this inside bar here. We are also tapping that as well. Okay, we're also tapping that as well. All right. So that's why our next candle closed bullish. So after this candle, it's coming off this structure to the left, right, and it's also tapping the H1 structure within the H4 structure. Your bullish non-MSP engulf is tapping into this structure, but this structure didn't make a new low, as you can see. Price didn't come down and take out this previous structure, so this structure high is not a new low level. So we know that price is going to go bullish. Okay, let's look at a bearish example. So here we have a bearish non-MSP engulf again. Same thing, same shit, different day. Coming off H4 structure to the left, it's inside the structure wicks. This bullish candle didn't close over here, so we're trapped in here. You want to come down to the H1 as well and make sure that there's H1 structure up there as well. Yep. And then is your bearish non-MSP engulf pushing into any type of H4 new high level? Nope, it's just a bullish empty space area. So the next candle naturally is going to be bearish. Okay. And then we look at some single candles. Look at a single candle example. So here we have a single candle. It's after a non-MSP engulf. The non-MSP engulf is coming off this H4 structure to the left, nowhere near closing above the structure wicks. So we're trapped inside this structure to the left, right? And we're also just about tapping into this H1 structure. Miss it by a couple micros, so you might not have taken this because you might feel like price is gonna maybe continue to fill this H1 and tap it before going bearish. But we are trapped in price nonetheless, a few micros off being trapped within the H1 as well. So as you can see, the next candle after, and also again, your single candle is not tapping into any H4 new high level. Obviously, naturally, to be fair, because it's always going to be after a non-MSP engulf or an inside bar, which can't tap into a new high level against you or new low level against you if you're looking for buys. Naturally, your single candle is also not going to be tapping into any level that's made a new high against you for sales here. So here we have a structure low, but again, didn't make a new high. Okay. As you can see, price made aggressive sales after. Again, here's another one, bullish single candle directly after a non-MSP engulf. The non-MSP engulf is just closing in a bearish empty space. Also, we want to make sure our non-MSP engulf is coming off H4 structure, and it is all the way to the left over here. And within this H4 structure, we want to make sure there's some type of H1, some H1 structure as well that it's tapping into. And as we can see, it's tapping into this H1 structure as well. So we're trapping price. That's all we're doing. We're trapping price within this level. We're trapping price multiple times. Okay. So the first time we're trapping price is by having some sort of structure in our previous H4 close. So an inside bar or an engulf is a structure kind of close because it's a bear and a bull and a bull and a bear. But then even more, we want more structure. So we look for more support for our structure. So if we have a non-MSP engulf, it's not enough for us. We need this to be supported by this, okay? And then further to that, we don't want this to close into anything that's made a new low, because that would be like a supply level. You don't want to buy into a supply level, do you? Even if it is formed of an inside bar in the structure, that makes the supply level, okay? So anyway, here we have our single candle just doing what it needs to do. It's also in this H4 bearish space. Bada bing, bada boom, we look for buys in the next candle, okay? And here I believe I have a liquidity wick example. So same thing, liquidity wick didn't happen directly after this non-MSP engulf, but it's tapping into the structure of the non-MSP engulf, which would be like this. It gapped a bit, but this would be the structure of the non-MSP engulf here. The non-MSP engulf is pushing into this structure, but this structure didn't make a new high. It didn't go and close above this previous structural high. And also your non-MSP engulf is coming off this structure to the left of it, Okay, so that's the bull, that's the bear, and you can see it's coming off here, and inside here there'll be H1 structure naturally. Okay, so everything is being trapped and there's nothing in our way that's going to make the trade fail, and then you look for sells within this next candle. Okay, and this is just how the market works over and over and over again. Okay, and when you go through when you cycle through every pair and just look at this concept, how I've taught it, when you look at this, how I've taught it, you will see how consistent it is in the next candle going in the same direction as your H4 candle over and over and over and over again. So I've covered a lot in this video and it might be a bit overwhelming, but watch the video as many times as you can to understand what I'm saying here. So now in this next video, we're going to cover when can you go against the previous H4 candle, and then we'll talk about some entry concepts and ideas in the last video in the bonus section to see how you can maybe use the H1 and M30 to take trades after you have a valid H4 closure. So I'll see you in the next video where we'll cover the opposite H4 rules.